The girl in the alley. The market was loud. Ships flew above. Traders shouted prices. Robots carried heavy bags. But in a quiet corner, far from the crowd, stood a girl no one noticed. She was thin. Her clothes were torn and dirty. Her skin, a soft pale blue, was marked with small scars. Her black eyes looked empty, like she had cried too much. She stood near the wall, trembling from cold and hunger. And every few minutes, she whispered in a shaky voice, "Buy me. Please. Someone. Please." Most people walked past her. Some looked away. A few laughed cruelly. No one stopped, until one man did. His name was Ray. A human, middle-aged, tired from work, with rough hands and a kind heart. He came to the market to buy parts for his ship, but he saw the girl and froze. She wasn't begging for food. She wasn't selling items. She was selling herself. Ray looked at her, really looked. She wasn't just hungry. She was broken, lost, a child in a woman's body. He stepped closer. The girl looked up in fear. She thought he would hit her or grab her like others had done. Her body tensed, but Ray didn't touch her. He opened his bag and took out a small warm meal wrapped in foil. Simple food. Bread and meat. "You hungry?" he asked softly. The girl didn't answer. She stared at the food like it was magic. He placed the meal in her hands. She took it slowly, like it might vanish, then she sat down and began eating. Fast, like she hadn't eaten in days. Ray sat near her, not too close. "What's your name?" he asked. She didn't speak, just kept eating. Her hands shook. "I'm Ray," he said. "I'm not here to hurt you." After a few bites, her lips moved. Barely a whisper. "Jia." That was all she said. Ray nodded. "Okay, Jia. You're safe now." Suddenly, her eyes rolled back. She dropped the food. Her body went limp. Ray jumped forward and caught her just before she hit the ground. She had fainted. Ray looked around. No one helped. People kept walking. Some stared. One vendor laughed and said, "Too bad." Another broken one. Ray felt anger burn inside him. He carried her to his small transport and laid her in the back seat. She was light. Too light. Back. At his place, a small room above his repair shop, he laid her on the couch. He brought a blanket. He didn't know what species she was, didn't care. She was someone who needed help. He checked her pulse. Weak, but there. He gave her water drop by drop. Hours passed. She woke in the night, confused, scared. Ray sat in, the chair across the room not moving. "You're safe," he said quietly. She had tried to stand but fell. Her legs were too weak. Ray got her some soup and bread. She ate slowly this time, watching him closely. "Why?" she whispered. "Why what?" Ray asked. "Why help me?" Ray thought for a moment. Because no one else did. Tears formed in her eyes, but she quickly wiped them. "You don't want anything?" "No." "No payment?" "No." She looked at the floor. "Then you're stupid." Ray smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe I still believe in being human." Jia didn't know what to say. She pulled the blanket tighter around herself. Her eyes slowly closed. Ray sat there the whole night, watching, guarding, wondering what pain this girl had been through. He didn't know her story, but something told him this was just the beginning. Jia woke up to the smell of something warm. Her body still ached, but she was no longer cold. A soft blanket covered her, and sunlight came through a small, dusty window. Her fingers gripped the edge of the couch. She didn't know where she was. Her heart started to race. Panic hit her fast. She rolled off the couch and crawled under a nearby table, her eyes darting toward the door. Her body was ready to run, even if she had nowhere to go. Ray stood by the stove pouring soup into a bowl. He heard the sound and turned around slowly. When he saw her hiding, his face softened. "You don't have to hide," he said gently. "No one's going to hurt you here." Gia didn't reply. Her eyes followed every small movement he made. Ray took the bowl and placed it on the floor near the table, close enough to reach but not too close to scare her. He stepped back. "You can eat if you're hungry," he said. "I'll stay over here." For a long time she didn't move. Then slowly she crawled forward and took the bowl with shaking hands. She brought it back under the table and sipped the hot soup. Her eyes never left him. Ray didn't speak more. He went to the window looking out at the street below. After a while he sat down in the corner chair with a book in his hand. He read silently, giving her space. Minutes turned into an hour. Finally, her voice came out. "You should have left me." Ray looked up. "Why would I do that?" "I'm nothing, just trouble." Ray stood up and walked to the sink. He poured himself some water, then said, "You're not nothing, you're someone." Gia looked down at her bowl. He walked a little closer, then paused. "You have a name, don't you?" She didn't answer right away. "I won't tell anyone," he added. "You can trust me." She hesitated, then whispered, "Jaya." Ray smiled a little. "That's a good name." Her eyes met his, unsure. "No one's called me by it in a long time," she said. Ray nodded. "Well, I will." Later that day she tried to stand again. Ray offered her his arm, but she shook her head. She walked slowly, holding onto the walls, and looked around the small room. A bed in the corner, a desk with tools, a few books. It was simple but warm. Safe. Gia looked at the door. "Do you lock it?" Ray blinked. "Only at night." She walked over and tested it. Then she leaned against the door and slid down, sitting on the floor with her knees to her chest. "You're scared of something," Ray said. She didn't answer. "You want to tell me?" "No." "That's okay," he said. "You can tell me when you're ready." She looked at him, confused. "You're not like others." Ray sat back down in the chair. "That's what people keep saying." That night, Ray made dinner again. Simple food, rice, vegetables, warm bread. He placed a plate near her on the table and sat across from her. Jaya didn't eat right away. She asked, "You have a wife?" Ray shook his head. "No, I did once, long time ago." "Where is she now?" Ray's face grew sad. "Gone. Accident. She was kind. Like you. Like..." Gia looked down at her food. "I'm not kind." Ray said nothing. Just watched her with calm eyes. "I had to do bad things," she said. "To live." "You did what you had to do," Ray replied. "That doesn't make you bad." She bit her lip. Her hands shook again. Ray leaned forward. "You're not in danger anymore. No one's coming for you here." But the knock at the door came just then. A loud, hard knock. Jaya froze. The spoon dropped from her hand. Ray stood up fast and walked to the door. He looked through the peephole. No one was there. Just a folded paper stuck in the doorframe. He opened the door slowly, looked around, and picked up the paper. He closed the door and unfolded it. One word was written in messy alien letters. "Property." Ray looked at Jaya. She was pale, her breathing fast. "They found me," she whispered. "Who?" Ray asked. She shook her head. "I can't go back. I won't go back." Ray walked over and knelt in front of her. "You're not going anywhere, not unless you want to." Her eyes filled with tears. "They think I belong to them." "Well, I don't." Ray took the paper, folded it again, and threw it into the small fire pit in the corner. "We'll deal with them," he said. Gia looked at him in silence. For the first time, she believed him. She wasn't alone anymore. Gia sat on the edge of the bed watching the small fan spin slowly on the ceiling. The air was quiet. Too quiet. She wasn't used to silence. On the streets there had always been noise, shouts, footsteps, danger always nearby. Now, here, with Ray, silence felt strange, safe, but also confusing. She didn't know what to do with safety. Ray was at the desk fixing a broken scanner. Sparks flew from the tool in his hand, but his face stayed calm, focused. Gia finally spoke. "Why do you live alone?" Ray looked over, surprised by the question. "I guess I got used to it." She tilted her head. "Humans don't need other humans?" Ray smiled a little. "We do, but sometimes, and it's hard to trust again." Gia nodded slowly. She understood that. She had never trusted anyone. Not truly. Kindness always had a price, until she met Ray. Later that day, Ray took her outside, just for a walk. It was a quiet area, away from the markets. Old buildings, rusted ships, and empty streets. Treja stayed close to him, her eyes jumping at every small sound. Ray handed her a piece of fruit. She looked at it, confused. "It's sweet," he said. "Try it." She bit it carefully, ready for pain. But it was soft, juicy. Her eyes widened. "You like it?" Ray asked. Gia nodded slowly, surprised. They sat on a bench. A little girl ran past them, laughing, her mother chasing behind. Gia watched them with a strange look. "What's that like?" she asked. "What's what like?" Ray said. "Being a child, having someone love you." Ray was quiet for a moment. "It's warm. Like a place you always want to go back to." Gia looked away. "I've never had that place." That night she found a small notebook in Ray's drawer. It had drawings. Simple things, stars, birds, ships, and people. One page showed a woman with soft eyes and short hair. Beside her was Ray, smiling. Gia stared at it for a long time. "Her name was Sarah," Ray said behind her. Gia jumped and dropped the notebook. "I didn't mean to." "It's okay," Ray said. "You can look." "She was your wife?" "Yes." "She was beautiful." "She was," Ray whispered, "and kind, like you." Gia blinked fast. Her throat felt tight. "I'm not like her," she said quickly. "No," Ray said, stepping closer. "But you don't have to be. You're you. And that's enough." She didn't know what to say. No one had ever said she was enough. Days passed, then weeks. Jaya stayed. She began helping him in the shop, cleaning tools, watching how he repaired machines. He taught her little things, how to use a scanner, how to cook rice, how to tie a knot. One day, while fixing a vent, Ray cut his finger. Gia rushed to him, grabbing a cloth. "Let me see." "It's just a scratch," Ray said, laughing. She gently wrapped his hand. Her fingers were cold. He looked at her. "You care?" Gia looked confused. "You're the only one who hasn't hurt me, of course I care." Ray smiled. "Then you do know what love is." Her face went blank. "No, I don't." "Yes, you do," he said softly. "You just don't know the word for it." That night, she sat on the couch, hugging her knees. "Ray?" she asked. He was reading. "Yeah?" "When you're not here, I feel scared." He looked up. "Because of them?" She shook her head. "No, because maybe you won't come back." Ray put his book down. He walked over and sat beside her. "I'll always come back. You can't promise that. But I do." Gia looked into his eyes. "Then I'll try to believe it." The next day, a man came to the shop, tall, rough, with deep scars and metal eyes. Jaya hid behind the shelves. Ray greeted the man with caution. "Looking for repairs?" Ray asked. The man looked around. "No, just checking on your guest." Ray's face went cold. "She's not anyone's guest. She's free." The man smirked. "That's not what her records say." Gia heard everything. Her body froze. Ray stepped forward. "If you come back here again, I'll report you." The man laughed. "You think the law cares about her?" "She's under my protection," Ray said firmly. The man left with a warning smile. Gia came out shaking. Ray wrapped an arm around her. "He's gone. He'll come back," she whispered. "Then I'll be ready." Gia looked up. Why are you doing this? Ray held her gaze. Because someone should have done it for you a long time ago. She didn't understand this feeling. It made her heart beat fast, made her chest feel warm and tight. Was this love? If it was, she didn't want to lose it. It was raining hard when they came. Ray had gone out for parts, thinking it was just another quiet day. Gia stayed behind, cleaning the shop like usual. She had begun to feel safe, almost like this place was her home. She even sang softly while working, something she hadn't done in years. But when the door burst open, her voice stopped. 3 figures stood in the doorway, soaking wet, tall, rough, faces she would never forget. Her old owners. They didn't need to say her name. Their eyes were enough. Gia backed away slowly, her body shaking. Her hands found a wrench, but she knew it was useless. You didn't think we'd find you? The tallest one growled, stepping inside. She didn't answer. You disappeared like trash in the wind, said another, a sneer on his face. But trash always floats back up. Please, she whispered. Leave me alone. One of them reached for her. You still belong to us. The wrench hit the floor. Gia ran, out the back door, through the alley, into the rain. Her bare feet hit mud, stone, metal scraps. She didn't care. She ran like she had when she first escaped them, fast, breathless, wild. She reached the old fence near the loading docks and climbed it, even though it cut her hand. Behind her, they shouted. They were chasing her. Then she heard something else. A voice. Gia! Ray. He came running from the market, holding a bag of parts. He saw her climbing, blood on her arm, fear in her eyes. He dropped the bag and ran toward her. The men spotted him. You the one hiding her? The tall one shouted. Ray stepped in front of Gia as she dropped from the fence, gasping for breath. She's not yours. She's marked, one of them said, pulling out a small scanner. She's registered property, sold and traded legally. Ray didn't move. She's a person, not a product. The man raised the scanner. Then buy her. Gia's heart stopped. Ray's fists clenched. How much? He asked coldly. 2. Late, the man grinned. We're taking her. Gia screamed when they moved forward. Ray swung first. His fist landed hard, knocking the smallest man down. The tall one pulled out a knife, swinging at Ray, but missed. Ray kicked him in the leg and shoved him against the fence. The third man tackled Ray to the ground. They struggled in the mud. Gia grabbed the dropped scanner. Without thinking, she slammed it into the attacker's head. He fell back, dazed. Ray pushed himself up, bleeding from his lip. He grabbed Gia's hand. Run! He shouted. They ran through the rain, turning into a narrow alley Ray knew well. Behind them, the men yelled. One of them fired a small stun blast that hit the wall inches from Ray's shoulder. Ray pulled Gia into a metal door and locked it behind them. They were inside an old workshop, dark, dusty, forgotten. Gia collapsed to the floor, her chest heaving. Ray leaned against the wall, catching his breath. She whispered, They'll never stop. Ray looked at her, blood dripping from his nose. Then I won't stop either. Gia's eyes filled with tears. I can't go back to being nothing, she whispered. You're not nothing, Ray said. You never were. They stayed in the workshop until the rain stopped. When they finally returned to the shop, the place was a mess. Tools thrown, drawers broken. But nothing was stolen. The men didn't want things. They only wanted her. Ray patched his wounds in silence. Shaita cleaned the blood from the floor. Then Ray went into his back room and returned with something she didn't expect. A contract. He placed it on the table. This document says you work for me, live here, and are under human protection. It's legal on Earth zones, won't stop everyone, but it's something. Gia stared at the paper. So, you want to own me too? Ray's eyes narrowed. No, I want you to own yourself. This paper gives you that chance. She sat down slowly. Her hand hovered above the pen. Her voice trembled. What if they still come? Ray placed a small key in her hand. Then we fight. Together. She looked at him. This this strange, kind human who had no reason to help her, yet never gave up on her. She signed the paper. For the first time in her life, her name was written by her own hand, Gia, not forced by someone else. That night they sat in silence. No words, only quiet understanding. Outside, the city lights blinked. Somewhere out there, danger still waited. But inside this small shop for just one night, Gia was free. Gia stood in front of the mirror holding a spoon. It wasn't a weapon, not a tool, just a spoon. But she stared at it like it was something alien, something she didn't understand. "Ray," she called quietly. He looked up from the repair bench. "Yeah?" She walked over, holding the spoon out like it was broken. "Show me again how to eat soup without shaking." Ray blinked, then smiled gently. "That's not something you're doing wrong." "I want to do it the right way," she said. "The way you do it." Ray stood, walked to her, and sat at the table. "All right, sit with me." She obeyed like a student ready to learn. That night was different. Gia wasn't afraid anymore. She was curious, hungry to understand how humans lived, not just survive. "I never had anyone teach me things," she said, sipping slowly from the bowl. "Not even as a child?" Ray asked. "No childhood," she replied. "Just cages, then streets." Ray looked down. "You shouldn't have had to learn life the hard way." "But I want to learn now," she said suddenly. Her eyes lit up in a way Ray hadn't seen before. "Teach me everything, from the beginning." He leaned back, thinking. "What do you want to know first?" She paused. "What's a hug?" Ray blinked. "A hug?" She nodded. "You did, it once." "I didn't understand." Ray stood and held out his arms. "You want to try again?" She walked up slowly, awkward, unsure. She let his arms wrap around her, soft, warm, safe. Her breath caught in her chest. "This is a hug," he whispered. "It feels..." She stopped, searching for the word. "Like home." Every day after that, Jaya picked a new thing to learn. How to cook eggs, how to sweep the floor properly, how to make tea and not burn the water, how to write her name in human letters. She practiced with focus, like each task meant survival. Like each small success stitched a part of her soul back together. Ray never rushed her, never laughed when she got it wrong. One day she tried to boil rice and filled the pot too high. It overflowed. She panicked. "I broke it," Ray laughed. "You just made rice for 20 people. "I don't know 20 people, she said, blinking, "then we'll eat a lot today." They both laughed, and for the first time it wasn't nervous laughter. It was real. One afternoon, Ray found her outside, sitting in the sun, eyes closed. "You okay?" he asked. She opened one eye. "I'm learning how to be still." He chuckled. "How's that going?" "Harder than boiling rice." They sat together in the sunlight. She turned to him. "You've taught me what food is, what warmth is, what laughter feels like." Ray nodded. "But I still don't know love." Ray looked at her carefully. "What do you think love is?" She looked up at the sky. "Something soft, but strong. Like when you protect me, or when I hear you coming back and I breathe again." Ray's voice dropped. "Then maybe you do know it." She turned to him slowly. "But I've never said it before. Not to anyone." Ray reached out, gently brushing a strand of her hair away. "You don't have to say it. Some things are understood." She didn't speak, but she leaned her head on his shoulder and closed her eyes. That said everything. The next day, she found a small music box in the back of the shop. It didn't work. "What is this?" she asked. Ray smiled. "It plays music. I used to fix it for Sarah." Gia brought it to the table. "Can we fix it again?" Together they opened it. Tiny, Gears, a broken spring. She handed him tools. He showed her how they fit together. After 2 hours of work, the music played, a soft, slow melody. Gia listened like it was magic. "What's this song called?" she asked. "Always Home," Ray said. "Sarah loved it." Gia stared at the box. "I think I love it too." That night, Gia walked to Ray's room. He was reading. She stood at the door, unsure. He looked up. "Can't sleep?" She shook her head. "Can I ask for something?" "Anything." She walked over and sat on the edge of his bed. "Teach me how to fall asleep without fear." Ray reached over and turned off the light. Then he took her. "Hand, you're safe," he said softly. "Close your eyes." She lay beside him, her head on the pillow. She didn't tremble, didn't flinch, just listened to the rhythm of his breath. "Ray?" she whispered. "Yes?" "When you're near, the darkness doesn't win," he smiled. "Then I'll stay near." And that night, for the first time since she could remember, Gia slept peacefully. Ray stood near the loading dock, staring at a screen in his hand. It was an offer. A real one. A job on a ship headed to the outer colonies. Good pay, safe work, fresh start. He had thought his days of flying were over. But this offer, it was tempting and dangerous. He didn't tell Gia about it. Not yet. He wasn't sure how. Inside the shop, Gia was humming softly as she wiped down tools. She looked different these days. Her skin had color again. Her eyes were brighter. She had even started wearing a ribbon in her hair, a small gift Ray gave her. She belonged here, but did he? That night over dinner, Ray finally spoke. "I got a message today," he said. "About work." Gia looked up, chewing slowly. "Good work?" "Yeah. Off-world. Big ship crew. They need a systems man." She paused. "You want to go?" Ray shrugged. "It's not a bad offer. Just thinking about it." Gia looked down. "You didn't ask me to come with you." Ray blinked. "I didn't think you'd want to go back to space." She didn't answer. Her hands gripped her, spoon tightly. "Do you want me to stay?" he asked. Gia stood up without a word and walked to the back room. The next morning, she was gone. Ray found her blanket neatly folded on the couch. Her small pouch of clothes was missing. On the table sat the music box they had fixed together. Its lid was open, but the music was silent. Next to it was a note written in shaky human letters. "Thank you for teaching me how to be a person. I won't forget. Gia." Ray stared at the note for a long time. He didn't know what he had expected. She had come into his life like a whisper, fragile and lost. And now she was gone again, like a ghost. But something wasn't right. He opened the drawer. Her favorite ribbon was still there. She never left without it. Ray grabbed his coat. Gia walked through the edge of the city near the shipping yards. She told herself she had made the right choice. Ray deserved to fly again. He deserved freedom. Not someone broken like her, but every step felt heavier. Every ship that passed above made her chest hurt. She reached the fence near Dock 7 and sat there hugging her knees. She didn't cry. Not yet, because part of her still hoped he'd come after her. But of course he wouldn't. Why would he? She was just someone he helped. Nothing more. Then she heard it. Boots. Fast. Coming closer. She looked up. Ray, out of breath, dirty from running, eyes locked on hers. He stopped in front of her, panting. "You really thought I'd leave without saying goodbye?" Gia stood slowly. "I thought it would be easier." "For who?" Ray asked. "For you," she said. "You've done enough. You saved me, fixed me." Ray stepped closer. "I didn't fix you, you fixed yourself." "I'm not ready to fly," she whispered. "Then I won't fly either." She blinked. "But the job, I turned it down," he said. "I came looking for you instead." Gia stared at him, confused. "Why?" He smiled softly. Because you're not just someone I helped. You're someone I care about more than I expected. She looked down. I thought if I stayed, you'd feel trapped. Ray reached out and lifted her chin. You were never a cage. You were the reason I stayed grounded. They sat on the edge of the dock, legs swinging. Gia was quiet for a long time, then she asked, if I wanted to stay here, forever, would that be okay? Ray looked at her. Only if you want to. She turned her head slowly, studying his face. And if one day, I ask you to teach me what it means to be more than family? Ray's breath caught. He nodded. Then I'll teach you that too. Later, they walked back to the shop together. It was messy, cold. The window had cracked during last week's storm, but to Gia, it felt like the safest place in the universe. Ray lit a small fire. She sat on the floor beside it. He turned to her. I still want to show you the stars one day. She smiled. Only if I get to come back here. You will, he promised. This is home. Gia looked at the fire, thinking quietly. Then, she whispered something barely loud enough to hear. But you're home too. The seasons had changed. The air was warmer now. Flowers had bloomed across the city's edge, and the sky above the repair shop was bright blue. No storm clouds, no fear. Inside the shop, laughter echoed. Gia was teaching a small alien boy how to hold a screwdriver. He was one of many orphans the nearby shelter sent over. Ray had started fixing machines for free again, and now, they both helped the ones who had nowhere else to go. Ray watched her from across the room. The same girl who once stood in an alley afraid to speak, now smiled, now laughed, now lived. And every day his heart grew fuller. One morning as Ray sipped his tea, he noticed something odd. Gia was sitting at the table with a small book and pencil. She had drawn two figures, a man and a woman. One looked like him. The other was her. Above them in shaky letters she had written, Family. Ray smiled. You've gotten good at drawing. Gia looked up. I'm trying to learn what it means. What means? Being yours? Ray's breath caught. Gia, I want a word, she said. One that makes it real. That says, he is mine and I am his. Ray set his cup down. We don't need a word for that. I already feel it. But I do, she whispered. I need one. He waited. Gia looked him in the eyes. Can I call you my husband? Silence, the kind that wrapped around the room like warm sunlight. Ray leaned forward. Only if I can call you my wife. Her lips trembled. Really? Yes. And just like that, no paperwork, no crowd, no law. Just two broken souls who chose each other. The next day, Gia wore the same ribbon Ray had given her months ago. She tied it neatly into her hair and stood in front of the mirror. She didn't see the scared girl anymore. She saw a woman, someone who had survived, someone who was loved. Ray came up behind her, resting his chin on her shoulder. You look beautiful. I feel human, she whispered. You feel like you, he said, and that's better. Life didn't become perfect, but it became peaceful. Gia started a small class for young aliens at the shelter. She taught them how to read, how to speak, how to stay strong. Ray helped older refugees find work and fixed their machines for free. They made a life out of kindness. One night after dinner, a girl from the shelter asked Gia a simple question. Is that your mate? Gia blinked. My Ray, the girl said, pointing. Gia smiled. Yes, he's my husband. It felt strange to say. Strange, but right. When she told Ray what the girl had asked, he laughed. So it's official now? It was always official, she said. Now it's just, spoken. Weeks later, the man who once tried to take her came back. He stood outside the shop with two others, faces full of anger. But this time, Ray didn't stand alone. Gia walked out first. She stood tall, chin raised. You don't own me, she said loudly. The man growled. The system says you're... She held up a new ID card. Her name, her picture, human protection seal. My name is Gia Ray, she said, and I am no one's property. The men backed away slowly. She didn't even need to fight them. Truth was louder than fear. That night, as they sat near the fire, Ray handed her a small wrapped box. Gia opened it carefully. Inside was a silver ring shaped like a star. She looked up at him, eyes wide. I know it doesn't mean much where you're from, Ray said, but for humans it's a promise. Gia held the ring like it was a galaxy. She slid it on her finger. Then I promised too. They said nothing more. They didn't need to. Later, Gia wrote in her notebook, I was once sold for nothing, treated like less than dirt. But one human saw me, fed me, held me, and stayed. I became more than a survivor. I became someone's wife. She closed the notebook and looked at Ray, asleep in the chair, mouth open, book on his chest. He looked peaceful, like home. She walked over, kissed his forehead and whispered, Good night, husband.